I look super professional, but I'm wearing my PJs.
I mean, okay, this won't go into the recording, or I can if you want, but I am also wearing my PJs. I look like...
We totally can. I'm like cool with that.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, hello, friends. I'm sorry, I'm going to go straight into it.
Yeah.
Hello, friends. You've caught us mid-conversation. We were just gabbing like gals, as you do when you get a bunch of email geeks into your room. Hey, that's what's going to happen. I'm Nudge, Marketing Alchemist. You've come back for another episode of Email Breakdown, and I'm here with a buddy, Samar. Hey, Samar.
Hey, Najmah. How are you doing today?
I am fabulous because I cannot believe I've managed to get you onto my little baby show. I'm so pleased you're here. Absolutely chuffed.
You just have to ask, right? Like, I was like, why am I not getting an invitation? And so I outright asked you, like, what do I have to do to get on this show?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a lesson for everyone. If you're ever in doubt, just ask or just put it out there.
What's the worst that can happen, right? And you gotta know. And that's been like, okay, so we're like diving into personal.
We're getting straight into it.
Yeah, but my whole thing with my business and my freelancing and my email career has been like, what's the worst that will happen? And the answer is always like, they're gonna say no. Are they gonna like say something mean? I'm a big girl. I can take it. Right? And so when you put it in that context, nothing is as scary as you think it is.
Well, this is why I'm so pleased you're here, Simon. Like, not even 2 minutes in, and you're already kind of like dropping the mic. You're giving great life advice. But for friends at home who don't know the magic of you, could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Samar Owais, and I am an email strategist and consultant for SaaS and e-commerce brands, which really just means that I am an email geek who gets to do what she loves day in and day out. And I have worked with companies like HubSpot, Pinterest, Workamajig, and gotten crazy results, like 100% conversion rate that I talked about and took people behind the scenes of last month at Litmus Live in Boston.
I mean, that keynote, it blew my mind. I'm so excited for you to share it with people who've not watched it yet as well. So hopefully we can drop a link or anything else into resources into the descriptions. But yeah, well, let's get into it. Before we actually get into the breaking down of the emails, I love to ask this question because it's so different for everybody. But how did you get into email marketing?
Oh, I met Val Geisler. And she sparked my love. So I met Val at a point where I was burned out as a content writer, right? And I had been doing content for about 10 years. I'd seen success. I had written for Marriott, Intercontinental, Aetna, a bunch of startups. I had, written even for Paul Jarvis and gotten a testimonial out of it. So like I was, for all means and purposes, I was doing well and, charging whatever money I would quote, I would get it. But I was burned out to the point where I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning because that would mean going to my desk and doing the work. And so when I met Well, I was just blown away by how passionate she was about her work. And what was her work? It was emails. And so I got intrigued by that. I started looking into it and I realized I was burned out with content writing. I didn't want to do it anymore. But the only thing I've ever been good at is writing, right? So if not content, then the only thing left for me was copy. And so I was like, I tried all different kinds of copy, cried my way through website pages, landing pages, sales pages. I could not. And then I tried emails and I loved it. And I was very, very lucky that Val gave me a chance and sent a project my way. And it was love at first, not even at first email. It was love at first Google search.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, so one follow-up question, like what was it about email that just captured your passion, like your attention, that other mediums didn't?
Well, it started with realizing how close to the money email is, because one of my big frustrations with the content work that I was doing was that startups or my clients that I was working with were not equipped to measure the ROI of the work that I was doing for them, right? So if I wrote an ebook, they could tell me like how many ebooks were downloaded, but they couldn't tell me how many leads came in through the contact me page at the end, right? Or like the
you.
intangible stuff. Or if a blog post of mine, like I was a long form blog post writer, right? So like I was writing mini ebooks in like 3,000, 5,000 word blog posts. And I would be so strategic about like, hey, this is where you place the opt-in form. This is where you place the graphic to click and get the upgrade, all of that. But there was no way to track it. Like which opt-in form or at what point in the blog post did you get the most signups from, right? How much traffic did you get over month? Like I just like really struggled. It's not that the startups didn't know the importance of it. They just weren't equipped, I guess, at that point in time.
It's only getting harder as well, isn't it? That measuring piece as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So with email, it was just so much simpler to do it. And I could control everything with email. And that was like the first attraction to me for email. But then I also just fell in love with how personal and personalized it was, right? It's like you are getting this little peek into somebody's inbox, right? And you're getting the privilege of like being read, and by that one person, you're getting their individual attention. A blog post, it's like, you know, whoever lands on it. It's a big ask for somebody to read like a 3,000, 4,000 word blog post. People usually bookmark, set it aside. Oh, we're gonna get to that. Nobody ever gets to it. But an email is an instant open, instant read. And then, yes, you might close that email and forget about doing whatever you want, but if it gets open, it probably gets read. And so I was super excited by that connection, direct connection with the audience.
Oh, that's incredible. A big shout out to Val for introducing Samar to our world. I'm so happy. An email pusher of sorts, I guess. First one's free, but yes, I'm so happy you're here. And you were incredible as a keynote speaker at Litmus. But yeah, so before I fangirl too much, let's get straight into the breaking down of the emails. So we're going to start with Coda. So
I've fallen in love with their emails.
Okay.
I want to meet the copywriter and the email strategist behind those emails. I am that happy with their emails, right? There are, of course, minor things here and there, but like in the grand scheme of things, this is a brilliant email.
So for friends watching, Samar was the one who curated the emails this time around. I'm fresh. This is brand new to me, so I'm so excited to get into these. So could you like tell me a little bit about why you created this particular email?
Yes. So the subject line stood out to me.
Okay.
At first, right? Keyboard smash no more. And it is speaking to the frustration of learning a new software, right? And I always say this, that I may be in SaaS, but software is not my friend. Every time I try to learn a software, there is just such a steep learning curve for me. It does not come naturally to me, right? And which is why I love doing their emails, because I get to sit on a demo and like learn how to make like use the software like the company means it to be used, right? But anyway, so this is probably one of their onboarding emails, one of the earlier ones, and it is just speaking directly to that frustration of being introduced to a new software that you're not quite sure what to do with, right? And getting started, and they call out the biggest frustration right off the bat, right? Getting started with an all-in-one tool like Coda can be a bit of a puzzle. But we don't want this to be the case. With feedback from our community, and I love how the focus is on the user and their community, not them. They're making their community and their users the hero here. So with feedback from our community, we recently made 16 improvements. Now this is where they're subtly placing themselves as the hero. Like, hey, we got this feedback. We made all these amazing improvements, right? That makes Coda faster and easier to use. It's just brilliant positioning, and in such in such a concise way. Right, one of my favorite exercises whenever somebody asks like, hey, how do I improve my email copywriting? And I'm like, whatever you want to write about, write it in 3 sentences and then distill it down to 1 sentence. And that's going to take you an entire day. But if you do it over and over again, you are going to get better. And then email copywriting is going to get super easy for you. Anyway, so just the copy is great. The positioning of the email is great. The fact that they are talking to their users and their customers, and they're putting them first and foremost, is just what really jumped out to me. And then, of course, there is a bit of what their product can do also baked into this, right? Building a doc to track a project, document information in a wiki, or just make your life easier is now more accessible than ever. No need to write lengthy formulas or go digging for the right component. They are calling out very, very specific use cases here. That means they've done the research and know that these are the sticky points for most of their users, right? And then there's the call to action, like, hey, ready to jump in. And they're not leaving us to, what I really love is they're not leaving the user to their own devices. They're giving them a way to learn and fast track the learning curve, right? So join us for a live interactive Coda Fundamentals webinar with a Coda coach specialized in helping you nail the basics of Coda and start building. And I love the webinar name, Nail the Basics, because that's what we really want. Like, what are the 3 to 5 ways that I can use this software that will make my life easy? And that is exactly what this webinar is doing. And save my seat. Easy, one-click call to action.
I mean, I'm in love with this email. There's so much that's good about it. It's so like one of the things that I often say when people ask what goes into a good email is the work that happens before the email, and it's so apparent here because they've obviously done their customer research. They're really in touch with who their audience is, and it comes out so strongly in the copy, like you pointed out. So also there's like some really great copy tips and tricks here, right? Like putting a number. Like we didn't make many improvements, we've made 16 improvements. Yes. What do you think about like little tricks like
that's
that?
very specific, and I love it. And I can bet they did more than 16 improvements, but they're just calling out 16 because it's a unique number, right? Nobody just says, oh, we made 16 improvements. They'll say, oh, we made 25 or 20 or more than 50 improvements. Nobody's impressed. 16 feels like it's a controlled environment. People will take out 10 minutes to go through all of them to see which one of those apply to them.
It's tangible, it feels specific, and that's great for copy. I think even little things like addressing you, there's talking to the person reading the email, that's so good as well.
Yes.
And like
and there's another thing, sorry, I'm cutting out, but I really want to point it out. There's another concept that they've used in this email, which is the idea of de-optimizing copy, but also providing context, right? And so 16 improvements is a link, but they haven't called it out. They haven't changed the text color of it. The only reason we know it's a link is because it's an underline. So anybody who's interested in finding out what those 16 improvements is, they're going to click through. But they've made the webinar the main CTA, right? And so they've also created links for like how to track a project, document information in a wiki, and all of those links are going to lead them to a help talk that will show them how to do it, right? And so anybody who's facing that particular pain is going to immediately click through, right? But then I love how the main CTA is Save My Seat. So they're giving contextual information and for people to go to and learn more on their own if they want to. But for people who are like me, who still want to like take the webinar, the call to action is front and center.
Yeah, like I love the fact when copy is kind of addressing the problem rather than falling back on like marketing speak for things. So Nail the Basics is the name of the webinar. It's not their introduction to Coda 101 webinar, which is fine, but I think Nail the Basics is such a strong call to action in itself, and it's so clear. So yeah, there's some really good stuff in here. Okay, here's a difficult question for you. Is there anything you would do better in this email?
Oh yeah. I would probably mention the webinar somewhere in the subject line. And it's a very small gray, right? And I would A/B test it, right? That is a brilliant subject line because it made me open it. So there is an argument can be made, like, do we really need to, right? But because this is a webinar that is run 3 times a week, that means they're sending at least weekly reminders about it, right? And so I would be so interested in A/B testing and seeing which ones gets the most opens.
Yeah, that's a great
one. Or even the most registrations for the webinars.
Yeah, I mean, if you as a business are putting a resource into holding a webinar 3 times a week, then you definitely want to try and be more clear rather than clever about the fact that you are offering it. So yeah, that's a great shout. I think that is also something that I would try as well. But overall, fantastic design wise, very minimal.
Yeah.
There's nothing too like distracting about what's going on here as well. You have a pretty clear idea of what's going on. So yeah, what a great start to our email breakdown.
Yes.
Let's move on to our next one, which is Vimeo.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to share this. So yeah, so you shared a couple of Vimeo, but I picked this one in particular
Yeah.
because I thought there was some really great stuff here. But for you, like, why did you choose this one in particular?
Oh, so I got this because I recently signed up for Vimeo. I'm moving
Mm-hmm.
all of my training videos over to Vimeo. And so I signed up. I handed off the login details to my VA and forgot about it, right? Until they emailed me, because obviously it takes time to like put everything together before you upload it, because
Yeah.
they're editing my videos, all of that. So we probably didn't do anything with the account in the first few days. And so this was like an onboarding email, I think, that I got, like, hey, first up, uploading. And so what I love about it is that it uses it's short, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but
Succinct? Yeah.
Succinct, yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's one of those, like, you can tell I did not learn English like speaking. It's not my first language, and these are one of the tiny ways it shows. But anyway, so I like the copy. First up, uploading direct to the point. Like, hey, you just signed up for Vimeo. One of the first things you need to do is upload a video to start getting the most out of our software, right? So, and they call it out. Let's get started with something simple. Anyone signing up for Vimeo already has videos they want to store in Vimeo, right? That's the entire purpose somebody's signing up for Vimeo, right? And so they're calling it out, like, start with something simple, upload your video, and it doesn't have to be the most polished or the most professional or even finished. And I love that they are calling out the hesitation people have around recording videos. Because a lot of times, maybe, people are signing up for Vimeo because they want to record something instead of uploading something. Right? And so they're like, oh, so if you don't have, in case you don't have any recorded videos that you want to upload, you are probably thinking about recording one of your own. And so they're calling out, like, they're calming down their users' nerves and saying, like, hey, nobody else is going to see it. It's just you. It doesn't have to be the most polished. It doesn't have to be the most professional. And it doesn't even have to be finished. Like, what I really would have enjoyed as a copywriter would have been like, hey, upload your bloopers. Right? But anyway, but uploading is the key to unlocking all the amazing features Vimeo has, and that is the linchpin here, right? That is why you need to upload, because until and unless you upload a video, you will not be able to make use of Vimeo. And then they make it super simple, and they call it out in their copy without saying it's super simple. They say 3 steps. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so this first module is great because like, first up, uploading, so clear. You don't even have to read this bit of copy to be like, I'll upload something. But yeah, if you do move on 3 steps, that's it. So this is like a key thing that I think every onboarding email should have as well, like a 3-step thing. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this bit?
Oh, I love it. It's super simple. Open your account homepage, drag and drop the video you want to add, and let Vimeo work its magic. That third step is just so, like, calming the nerves. Like, hey, all you have to do is upload. We'll take care of the rest. They say it without saying it. And I love it. So, and then they set expectations of what happens next after they upload their video. Like, once your video is uploaded, you can start customizing, sharing, collaborating, and more. Because depending on the size of the video, it might take time for Vimeo to upload it, right? And so I love how there is more than one call to action, but it's the same type of call to action. It's one of my biggest gripes in the email marketing world, where people cram in too many CTAs, and it just dilutes the power of their main CTA. And so here, yes, they're using 2 CTAs, but they're the same CTAs. And even if they would have changed the copy of the subject line, both would have led to the same place. So we're getting the same amount of conversions without hurting them.
Yeah, that's one I'm definitely supportive of, is that you, like, obviously no to multiple CTAs, but yes to the same CTA but repeated over the
Yes.
email. Because I guess like if you're looking at this on mobile as well, like that first module is going to get pushed up from this module, so you want to make sure that people have as many opportunities to click on the main CTA as possible, right? And hey, I'm seeing a theme here: numbers, the magic of three, one, two,
Yep.
three. So like Vimeo didn't have to put that third step here, really. Like if they're putting the onus on someone to use Vimeo, but that's a cool copywriting trick, right? Like using the magic of three. Is that something
Also,
that you use?
yes, a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
So in my copy, you'll see cadence of three used again and again and again. If I'm giving examples of like a frustration or a feeling that you have, like I will give you three specific examples in my copy. And what I really like, and this is like getting down into the nitty gritty of stuff, is how they use the number three and did not spell it out. Even though if their copywriter had Grammarly installed, it would have like highlighted it in red. And then it would have been like a, distracting. But I love how it's like we all read numbers a lot faster than we read words. And it's just a fact, right? So even though copywriting or writing rules say that up to 1 to 10, you have to spell it out. And then after that, you can use numbers. I don't believe in that. If it makes sense for three, if copy-wise or visually using the number makes sense, use the number. And here it absolutely makes sense because using three steps and then numbering it 1, 2, 3 just creates and closes that loop.
Yes.
And especially visually, right? Copywriting is as much reading as it is visuals in the email world. And so I love how they've like simplified all of this, and the designer has done such a good job of like working with the copy.
Yeah, this is where you're right. Copy is like painting with words, like copywriting. It is designing with words, and this is a really great example of it. 3 steps. Yeah, you're right. Like I think people have to learn the rules in copywriting so they can break them.
Oh yes.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is great. So yeah, I think the image as well. I think it's smart that they have that little like hold icons to show that you can drag and drop. Maybe for me, like maybe I don't know, this would be an A/B testing thing, but maybe they could have like a gif of like
yes, that was one of my thoughts. Like, hey, the gif would have been so cool here. Because one of like I would have understood if this was like a branding thing, but there's no branding in the image. So the Vimeo logo is up at the top. It's not part of the image, and so a gif here or like below somewhere, it would have been nice. But it's a very, very minor gripe because the copy does such a good job of like getting the point across, telling people what to do and how to do it and what will happen after you do it.
Yes, I think the copy does a lot of the heavy lifting here. And hey, maybe they just wanted to keep this email pretty lightweight, which they did, and that's great. Difficult question for you, Samar. Is there anything else that you would improve about this email?
Yes, the CTA button copy.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. All right, what would you have there instead?
Upload your first video. Or get going, something like that, right? That would be like, this is another key area where we could encourage our users, right? Hey, it only takes a minute. That's a CTA button copy.
Oh, hey, yes. I mean, all the gems are being dropped today, but yeah, absolutely. I think just a single, like, it's interesting because they've done such a good job with the body copy, and then when it comes to the CTA, it's just like upload, where
like, it's like hints of like a little bit of laziness.
It could be get started now. It could be, let's get going. Yeah,
or even like upload your first video, which is the entire point of the email.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So just a tiny thing. I mean, like it's like 5% there. That's like the last 5%.
I'd give it a 98%, to be honest. It's a very, very minor gripe.
yeah.
And like, I want to say this: no email is perfect. There is always going to be something that can be optimized, and not because you aren't a good email strategist or copywriter or designer, but because people who are reviewing emails are not emotionally connected to those emails, right? And so we're not as close to them as you are. And also, this is something that I learned as I work with more and more companies, is we don't know what limitations they have in the process or workflow or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
When they're putting together those emails, like, hey, maybe it was like a design thing. Like, hey, our buttons cannot be longer than this height. And so you have to fit your copy within that button, keeping sure that every CTA button comes with the margins of its own. right?
Yeah.
And so all of my CTA examples were very long. So maybe it was a design thing.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I try to encourage on email breakdown is that even though we are breaking down emails and we're trying to critique emails as well, so keeping in mind that there's often a very tired email marketer on the other side that's doing a lot. So yeah, I mean props to every single email marketer out there working within the quirks of this profession and your tech stack. Absolutely. We've got one more email to break down. This is from Google, which is,
Oh yes.
that small company. I'm sure you've heard of it. Um, so yeah, so why did you curate this particular email before we get into it?
Well, only and only because I was shocked at how well it was done.
Shocked. Okay, yes, that's the word.
I
So,
mean,
yeah.
Google isn't known for sending really nice emails, are they? Or maybe I
Yeah.
just haven't paid attention, right? But the showcase your product on Google for free. What stood out to me was the focus on me, right? And this email is only going out to people who have installed analytics on their website. So it's a behavior triggered email. And they've done the work of like, hey, anybody who's, or I don't know whether they're tracking it or not, or maybe it's just like a mass email that went out to everybody who's on analytics. But if you're on analytics, you probably have products or you're selling something,
Yes.
right? That's the entire reason you are tracking the website and where your traffic is coming from and where it's going, all of that. So I really like how the focus of this email is on benefiting the user, right? And so showcase your product on Google for free. And it's one of the very few times I love the word free here because analytics isn't a very easy software to learn or to understand, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to give them a very big incentive to like do anything off the regular path in analytics. And so, and they say things like, hey, you're already using Google Analytics to understand your customers, reach more of them with free product listings on search, YouTube, the shopping tab, and more. This is an email that is purely designed to benefit the user. And they've done such a good job with explaining that in 2.5 lines or two sentences. Yes. And I love how it's all about the user and all the benefits that they will get, right? So they don't have to say, oh, you'll make more sales, you'll have more visibility. It's implied because how hard is it to be listed on Google search and to show up as an ad on YouTube or the shopping tab? I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, I know what that is. It's the, how you get all images, views, and I think that one of them has the shopping tab when you run Google search.
Yes, I believe so. Yes, yeah.
But I love it. I love it. They are introducing a product, but they are leading with how it will benefit the user.
Leading with value. What a concept.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that it's interesting. So this is like the rule of reciprocity when it comes to persuasion tactics, right? You give something and then someone on the other side is more likely to give you something back. And I think this is like this in action where showcase your products on Google for free. Come on, do it. It's
right?
Inviting you into using it. And then we get into another another
Oh
rule
yeah.
of 3.
So it's one of the longer emails, but I love how they are setting expectations and they're dealing with the anxiety of trying something new by telling them how it works. And again, rule of 3. Easily add your products, right? Upload your product information with the feed file, the content API, or add products directly to Merchant Center. Doesn't make sense to me, but they will probably make sense to anybody who's like getting started there, right? Because when you go in, I love this about Google. When you go in, sign up for a new form, there's like this in-app onboarding that they do really, really well.
Yeah.
And so all of that will make sense to you when you go over. 2, get your products to appear across Google, which is the entire reason you're doing this, right? Shoppers can reach your products on search, YouTube, shopping tab, and more. This is a repetitive sentence, but it makes sense to include it here, right? Because it is the crux of the email. And then 3, this is where it gets really relevant, like drive even more sales. So when you're ready, run a paid ad campaign to reach more shoppers looking for product like yours. What they're really doing is getting people to do the hard work of setting up their products before pitching them. Hey, now you're gonna run paid ads. But I feel like it's done brilliantly.
Yes, yes.
Right?
I
You're
think,
gonna do all of this anyway when you decide to run paid ads, but if you do it before, running paid ads just becomes so much easier when you are ready. And also, if you are not ready, when you do this, you'll start thinking about doing it. Like, hey, I've done all the hard work. How about I test it out and run like this one ad campaign and see how it goes?
I've got the budget. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Right?
interesting. I mean, so like some copywriting like tricks here as well. So for the first step, they could have just said add your products, but no, they added easily add your products. You know, so there's little words in there to make sure that you're kind of getting the sense of how easy, and it's all about repetition in copy. Yeah, like what do you think? Are you picking out any sort of like little tricks that they've used here?
This is a very straightforward email, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not an amazing piece of copy or a piece of art when it comes to copy.
Yeah.
But it's simple, it's direct, it's easy to read, and they are using things like clear headlines, numbering their points, using the power of three, and I feel like that just holds so much power. And you don't have to be a brilliant copywriter to write a good email. That's my big takeaway from this email.
No, exactly. It's more about function a lot of the time, you know, as unsexy as that is, but you know, really basic stuff like bolding and numbering, you know, the first parts of like paragraphs or lines.
Not many people talk about this when it comes to copywriting, but formatting is definitely a part of copywriting. Formatting your copy is part of copywriting, and it's a copywriter's job.
Oh, totally. I mean, this is what we mean. Like, copywriting is like designing with words, and yeah, I mean, you can see they've kept it pretty consistent as well. You know, there's not like one bit of text that's like 3 lines.
Yes.
You know,
So this is something I learned when I was learning to do e-commerce emails, right? Which is, and I feel like it was such a blessing that I got my start in e-commerce with an agency that with the designer would be like, hey, Samar, you have like 3 lines for this product description, but only 1 line for the third product description. I need it to be 3 to be symmetrical. And it made me think about copy in an entirely new way. And so I've always like made sure that if my product descriptions or whatever descriptions copy that I'm writing needs to be highlighted in a certain way, then it needs to be symmetrical, right? It cannot be 1 line, 3 lines, or 2 lines. It needs to be 1 line for each, or 2 lines for each, or 3 lines for each. And it also just flexes your copywriting muscles also, because like you just came up with the perfect description in 1 sentence, but now you're being told, no, this needs to be 2 lines, and you need to come up with 2 or maybe 3 sentences more. And so now you're like back to square one, even though you're so in love with that 1 line description that you've just written, but you can't use it.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to get used to rejection pretty quickly when you're in marketing, especially copywriting as well. People are like, no, redo that. You have to kind of get used to it, don't you? And hey, this is another thing, right? Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that this line of like this block of text is the same height as the image. Is that something that you do in your own emails as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, in my e-commerce work. Because again, this is not something the copywriter would have looked into, because this is a designer's prerogative. They know what the size of the image is going to be.
Yes.
Right? And so they might have sent it back to the copywriter to say, hey, I need you to either reduce it by XYZ words or characters or increase it. Yeah. Right? And so that back and forth between a designer and a copywriter is a super important partnership on an email done right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where like clear briefs and clear communication is so key. You know, as a designer, like I would put in like lorem ipsum, just like placeholder text, and then I would say, okay, this is the amount of text that is ideal for this particular part of the email. So yeah, so that's definitely something that they've done here. So yeah, it's interesting. So they've number 3 is drive even more sales, run a paid ad campaign to reach more shoppers. And then they've kind of repeated that. What do you think about that repetition?
I'm going to say I like it from a design perspective. I'm not so sure from a content perspective. Right?
Yeah, interesting.
So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, maybe we could have done away with this part completely. Right? right?
Yeah.
But let's see what it says, right? With so many people searching for businesses online, Merchant Center helps customers find your store and products across Google channels such as search, YouTube, shopping tab, and more. Again, it's saying pretty much the same thing. It would have I would have understood the need for it to be here if they had taken this space to explain what the Merchant Center is. Because that's the one mystery in this email. What is the Merchant Center?
What the heck is it? Yeah.
Right? It was mentioned in point 1 above, and now it's mentioned here again. And I don't know what it is. And so that is the one thing I would say, either remove this completely and let the Merchant Center remain that one standalone mystery that nobody will really pay attention to because the rest of the email is doing its job, or use this section to highlight the Merchant Center.
Yeah, I mean,
right? And so show your products to new customers could be set up your Merchant Center to show your products to new customers, or set up your Merchant Center to start attracting new customers today.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so what this does is it's not explaining what a Merchant Center is, but it is giving the context to the reader to say, hey, okay, so the Merchant Center is where I need to go to do all of this. Yeah. That's what they're calling it. They could have said the dashboard, but they're not. It's called the Merchant Center.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I think if thinking about the audience, maybe if you're going out to people who aren't necessarily confident about their tech skills and setting things up, maybe a video would have served, a link to a video on hey, get started with Merchant Center might have been a good idea.
Here's an over-the-shoulder walkthrough of how to do it.
Yeah.
And then and you can cut and paste it from a webinar. I'm sure Google runs a lot of training webinars. Cut and paste it from a webinar, put it on YouTube. It's one of your own apps. And then just let them know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I agree. I think this is repetition that doesn't really reframe or add anything new to what the rest of the email is doing, and that's kind of then why even have it there. So I would almost say, at this point I would think, okay, if someone hasn't been convinced yet to set up their Merchant Center, this is a good way to have that extra persuasive nudge for them. And that could be with a case study or an intro video or something like that. But overall, overall, a really
I'm gonna say, Najmah, we gotta think more about that, because the whole case here is to get people. The whole conversion here is to get people to click over to get started. So case study might not be the best.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because it'll dilute the main CTA.
Good. That's a great.
What I would say is the lower section could be replaced with the top section. Showcase your product on Google for free. No, you know what? Let's keep it simple. Let's just slash it all out. That part needs to just go away. We don't need to give it any more attention than this. Yeah, we're convinced.
All right, Google, just in case you're watching this, just cut that bit out. You don't need it. It's interesting. And then we've got at the footer. I mean, the footer is often, kind of thought of as an afterthought in many emails. Emily Ryan had a great piece about it at Litmus.
Every time I see an email footer now, I think about Emily.
Emily!
Because I am starting to evaluate email footers, whereas before I would just ignore them. Hey, if it was too crowded or anything, I'd make a note of it. But other than that, I wouldn't think anything about it, right? But this one is a very well done footer. It's got only two things: Help Center for people who need help, and the Analytics for forum for people who have a question that they need asked and are more comfortable asking questions than looking for help in or searching for answers in the Help Center. And that works brilliantly.
Yeah, it's again, it's all tied together. It's very solid. Is it going to win any awards for design? Probably not, but that's not what you need for an email like this, right? It's not meant to be all
Are there
bells
awards
and
for email
whistles.
designs?
I think being on really good emails kind of counts, I guess.
I guess.
But yeah, I mean, overall, it is very solid, and I mean, some great inspiration here on how to lay out an email well to kind of get people on. Again, get started and then get started again. Probably not the best CTA to repeat. Maybe it might be a good idea.
The other CTA could have been upload your first product or set up your first product.
Yeah.
Right? But again, a designer might come to me and say, hey, the buttons needed to be the same size. And so what am I going to do? And again, busy email marketers.
Yeah.
Do they have the time to spend 2 hours trying to come up with the right CTA so that the button sizes could be the same? Like from a symmetrical point of view, this is a beautiful email.
Yeah.
And so I can totally envision a designer getting indignant if we increase the size or the length of the bottom CTA. Like,
Absolutely.
it's messing with the symmetry of the email. And I've had designers say that to me, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, you've made the rest of my copy look like $1 million. I will give you a boring CTA.
Hey, it's that give and take. Yeah, absolutely. We've got to work together at the end of the day. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, 3 really great emails. Lots of like little tips and tricks. But yeah, do you see an overarching kind of like any patterns or trends in those 3 emails
in all of these emails, formatting really stood out to me.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? And so strategically bolding words that need to be bolded, strategic placements of CTA, line height. The one thing I would say is I wish these emails used a bigger font size.
Okay, yes.
Or maybe it's just that I'm getting old and I need glasses now, but I don't think they look cool, so I don't wear them on calls. But it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think when in doubt, slightly bigger font is never a bad thing because you want to try and make sure that your emails are accessible, and that's part of the whole thing, making them easy to read and accessible. That's never a bad thing, is it? So yeah, I think that's a great shout. For me, it is really about function over form. So making sure the email is doing what it needs to do, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day as well, isn't it? Okay, well, that was, my mind is buzzing. I'm going to try and evaluate all the copy of the emails that I look at now with your voice in my head. But before you go, because selfishly I've got you here, because I just want to hang out with you all day, obviously. Is there anything you'd like to promote before we go? Any resources you want to drop for our friends watching at home?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the only thing I want you guys to go and visit and sign up for is my newsletter, Emails Done Right, where I pick email fights because I have such a huge problem with the status quo of the email marketing world. I feel like we could all do better, and I spend my days talking about how to do that. And it didn't start out that way, by the way. Emails Done Right was like just your regular email marketing newsletter until I realized I had a lot of opinions on like how to do emails right.
And we love it.
Thank you. So go to emailsdoneright.com, subscribe, and then we'll wait for my email fights.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to grab the popcorn. I'm sure people at home are going to grab the popcorn. We're going to wait for your emails. Yeah, picking email fights. That's fantastic. Link will be in the description. But yeah, sadly, we've come to the end of this email breakdown. I hope you'll come back. Will you come back?
Absolutely. Anytime you want me. This is one of my favorite ways to pass my time.
Okay, amazing. Yes, my excuse for just hanging out with other email geeks. For now, I've been Naj. You've been Samar. This has been Email Breakdown, and we're going to say bye.